San Diego leaders hope these spikes will save lives. See the new plan for suicide prevention on the Coronado Bridge. And a backlog at the courts. The justice system feels the impact of President Trump's zero-tolerance policy on immigration.
Squirrels lie to each other constantly. And who doesn't want to live in a world of lying rodents for an hour and a half?
The La Jolla Playhouse dives into the world of squirrels with the hope of teaching humans a little bit about themselves. An immersive art experience, Wonder Spaces returns to San Diego. KPBS Art Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebone Monet. The Trump administration is set to use a federal prison in Southern California to house immigrants accused of crossing into the U.S. illegally. The medium security federal prison in Victorville is about 150 miles from San Diego. It will house up to 1,000 people facing immigration charges. The Union for Workers at the Victorville prison raised concerns to the LA Times, saying the facility is not properly staffed to handle the extra people. Attorneys say a fast-track prosecution program is in the works for San Diego's district courts. KPBS Frontiers reporter Jean Guerrero says Operation Streamline is meant to handle illegal border crossing cases in groups rather than individually.
Operation Streamline is an answer to the Trump administration's zero tolerance for illegal border crossings. That policy called for anyone who enters the U.S. illegally to be criminally prosecuted, even first-time offenders and asylum seekers. First-time illegal entry is a federal misdemeanor that was rarely prosecuted before, with resources focused on more serious crimes. The chief judge for the Southern District of Southern California created a committee to address what he called, quote, strains, issues, and problems for the court and its personnel, end quote, due to the fact that the U.S. attorney is calling for at least 100 such misdemeanor cases a week. Jeremy Warren is an attorney who's been at the meetings with the committee. He says this new strategy could hurt the justice system's ability to deal with serious crimes.
And in this district, we do a lot of serious fraud cases, cartel cases, all sorts of major investigations go on here. And resources are being diverted to prosecuting the guy who was coming up here to pick tomatoes. And we're not so sure that that's the best use of resources.
He says there are also questions about what Operation Streamline means for the due process rights of these immigrants. Many need translators. Some speak very rare indigenous languages. Warren says that streamlining their prosecutions could violate their constitutional rights. The office of the U.S. Attorney here declined to comment on Operation Streamline, saying only that it's looking for practical solutions to Trump's zero-tolerance policy. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
San Diego Congressman Scott Peters is calling for an end to the practice of separating families at the border. In a tweet today, Peters said separating children from their parents is cruel and devastating to the mental, physical, and emotional health of these children who've come here seeking refuge. I joined my colleagues to oppose any funds in the DHS spending bill from being used to separate children and parents. A budget compromise for Governor Jerry Brown will include more money for the CSU system. Democratic leaders announced a deal was reached this afternoon. In addition to adding funding for higher education, $500 million will go to cities in the form of grants to deal with homelessness. A proposal by Democrats to expand Medi-Cal to young people living in the U.S. illegally is not included in the budget deal. San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer is in Boston tonight for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Earlier today, it was announced Faulconer would chair a new alliance on trade among North American cities. Trade is a source of tension at the G7 summit happening this weekend in Canada. President Donald Trump recently imposed tariffs on several G7 members. Before leaving the White House, President Trump said Russia should be readmitted to the group.
You know, whether you like it or not, and it may not be politically correct, but we have a world to run. And in the G7, which used to be the G8, they threw Russia out. They should let Russia come back in, because we should have Russia at the negotiating table.
From Canada, President Trump will travel to Singapore. He'll be the first sitting president to meet with a North Korean leader. AP reporter Tracy Brown takes a closer look at the high-stakes summit.
Heading into his North Korea summit with characteristic bravado, President Donald Trump says he's ready to negotiate an accord with Kim Jong-un to denuclearize the Korean peninsula.
I've been preparing for this all my life.
Trump's comments come as he looks to reassure allies that he won't give away the store in pursuit of a legacy-defining deal with Kim, who has long sought to cast off his pariah status on the international stage.
To even come to this level, President Trump's unique style has contributed. These sanctions, maximum pressure, and even bloody nose talk in part contributed to probably Kim Jong-un deciding to have this meeting.
North Korea has faced crippling diplomatic and economic sanctions as it has advanced development of its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. Trump, who coined the term maximum pressure to describe U.S. sanctions against the North, says if they continue, it would be a clear indicator for the success or failure of the summit. But that talk gives pause to Jim Carafano, a foreign policy expert at the right-leaning Heritage Foundation.
So making compromises on that strategy at the front end, I think, would be disastrous, because regardless of what the North Koreans did or didn't do, we'd be putting our own interests at risk, and we shouldn't do that.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the president's new approach to diplomacy is paying off.
In the past, there had been months and months of detailed negotiations, and they got nowhere. This has already driven us to a place we've not been able to achieve before.
Past administrations have also used a combination of sanctions and diplomacy to seek North Korea's denuclearization, but the results failed to endure. U.S. allies in the region are expressing concern that Trump's push to denuclearize Korea could ignore the North's ballistic missile and chemical weapons programs. So all sides will be looking to the Kim regime to provide evidence of weapons dismantling.
I think America and its allies, certainly the Japanese, and I believe the South Korean government, are going to demand real deliverables. And, we know that North Korea has played this kind of rope-a-dope cycle in the past.
They would call it a success no matter what happens at the meeting. Some sort of a peace declaration, normalization of relations, or even a peace treaty. So some sort of a joint statement that comes out of the meeting, and both of them will say, well, this is huge, this is successful, this is historic.
The unpredictable nature of both leaders got them around the summit table in Singapore, and they'll both be on the spot to deliver. Tracy Brown, Associated Press.
Caltrans is moving forward with suicide deterrents on the Coronado Bridge. This after a year of researching different types of barriers. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has more.
Caltrans says the Coronado Bridge is the second most used bridge for suicides in the United States. Drive across it and you'll notice there are no fencing or rails.
Caltrans says a permanent barrier for the Coronado Bridge is still 5 to 10 years away, but in the meantime, they plan to put bird spikes up, similar to ones like this, that they hope will deter suicides.
Our goal is within the next year to have those a version of those bird spikes placed along the length of the entire bridge.
Caltrans says they got the bird spikes idea after holding open houses with the community. The spikes are expected to cost anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000.
As a physical barrier, visual as well as tactile, we feel it would be a good interim in advance of the ultimate project.
The ultimate project could mean installing permanent barriers that also keep the bridge visually appealing.
The bridge itself is almost 50 years old, and it's iconic to our skyline here in San Diego. So that will also be taken into account. So whether it's something that's solid, semi-solid, in terms of fencing, netting.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A county-funded crisis hotline is staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 1-888-724-7240. Award-winning chef, writer, and TV host Anthony Bourdain was found dead today in France. Bourdain was there to produce an episode of his CNN show, Parts Unknown. French officials say the cause of death was suicide. Bourdain traveled the world while showcasing cuisine and culture, including Vietnam, where he shared a meal with former President Barack Obama. Here's some of what Bourdain told PBS in 2016 about his life and how food can bring people together.
Yeah, food may not be the answer to world peace, but it's a start. I think I was thinking of Ted Nugent. I find just about everything that comes out of his mouth violently offensive. But we both like barbecue. That is some kind of common ground for a discussion, and surely that's not a bad thing. It is both a blessing and a curse to me that no matter what happens in my life, I can always go back to brunch. Nobody wants to cook brunch. Society apparently needs people to cook brunch in spite of its ridiculousness. This TV thing doesn't work out. There's always a brunch gig.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, the president comes face to face with the leaders of G7 nations amid escalating trade tensions. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Operators of the state's power grid say we might see more flex alerts this summer. Forecasters are calling for a hotter than average summer this season. The state received less rain and snow this year, and that means less hydroelectric supply. As a result, there will be more of a reliance on solar, which can be difficult in the evening hours. Speaking of heat, it's going to be a sunny, warm weekend. Justin Pavic has details in tonight's forecast.
Well, conditions looking quite nice as we go throughout the next couple of days. More sunshine. That means slightly warmer than normal temperatures. Pretty close to normal so far this month. And, well, could we see changes as we venture our way into next week? No sign of that for now. Satellite and radar pretty quiet. Just a few clouds earlier on today toward the shoreline. So looks pretty good toward Oceanside and La Jolla and Chula Vista as I speak. And throughout the interior as well from Borrego Springs to Mount Laguna. As we take a broad view, noticing no storminess nearby. Next storm system to impact the Pacific Northwest over the course of the next couple of days, and that will have very little influence on us. It's going to stir up a little eddy here off the coast, and that could kick up the onshore flow just a tiny bit, but it will not be that noticeable. So some thickening clouds late night toward the shoreline, otherwise quiet. We drop into the mid-60s, and notice Borrego Springs at 71, Mount Laguna 54. And Ramona at 52, and again San Diego down to 63 degrees. As we talk about tomorrow to kick off the weekend, I think there will be some clouds at the shoreline, but not a whole lot. Interior wall-to-wall sunshine, a little breezy and gusty over the mountains and the deserts. Mount Laguna 79, Borrego Springs at 106. And continued quiet as we venture into early week. Notice storminess off toward the north and out over the nation's midsection. Now, the drought will continue to persist. Of course, you know, we talk about June, we talk about a dry month. We're not expecting to see, climatologically speaking, that much precipitation. Coast, well, we're looking at similar weather here the next several days. Daytime highs mid to upper 70s, overnight lows into the low 60s. And like I said, there's going to be a little bit of cloudiness toward the shoreline here as we venture our way into the weekend. Inland areas, just tons of sun and quite warm. In fact, numbers running above normal. Like I said, San Diego is be a little bit above normal here the next couple of days. Mountainous locations over the weekend, a little breezy, a little gusty out there. Otherwise, quite nice, lots of sunshine and continued quite hot over the desert locations where it will be windy this weekend as well. And again, the Padres away over the next several days. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic. Back to you, Ebony.
More than 3 million people call San Diego and Imperial County home. With 9,000 square miles of space, we have lots of communities across the region. As part of our KPBS Explore project, we traveled to 5 communities to find out what makes these places so special. Tonight, we focus on Southeast San Diego. The people talk about what makes this neighborhood so unique.
You can come over here and go to a taco shop, feel the people, sit down there for a second.
You can get some of the best cooking down here. You can get some of the best conversation down here. You can run into some of the most amazing, unique individuals.
We know who's part of the neighborhood and who's not, and so, you know, we kind of, there's like all these unwritten rules.
The people of Southeast are hardworking, passionate, ride or die people for this community.
I think that familial vibe where people kind of look out for each other whenever you can.
I love the unity that we have amongst one another. I love the fact that my friend's grandmother is also my grandmother in some sort of way.
There was a meeting at City Hall, the Planning Commission. One phone call, one email was sent out, and that City Hall was filled to capacity. So when a threat comes to the community, people show up.
I've seen people from this community that either live here or work here continue to come back and give back to the community. And I think that's rare and hard to find.
And we welcome you, and we won't turn you away. But you need to come here with an open mind and recognize that we are our own culture within the culture that is San Diego.
We live in a community that's here to help. So I don't care what we have. If we have 1 cup of rice, we share it. And that's what makes me proud to be from Southeastern San Diego.
You can watch the rest of this series at kpbs.org/whereicomefrom. We'd like to hear what you think about the series. You can join the conversation on the KPBS Facebook page.
As the dust settles on the June primary, we look at what Tuesday's results can tell us about November. An inaccurate count leads the county to underestimate the number of people living on the streets, and questions about pain treatment offered by a local clinic claiming the most significant breakthrough in natural medicine. Join us for the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
La Jolla Playhouse just opened a new play by Robert Askins called The Squirrels. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando checked out a rehearsal of the play to see just how far the rodent infestation has gone.
There's something strange going on within the walls of La Jolla Playhouse. I tried asking actor Brad Oscar what's up and got this. The Playhouse's artistic director, Christopher Ashley, tried to provide insight.
In a musical, people sing when they just like regular spoken language won't do it anymore at moments of real passion or emotion. And here, I think people, when they just, the English language won't do it anymore, they burst into squirrel. It's just, I can't speak anymore, so I'm going to have to bark.
But what do you expect when you send your actors to squirrel school to prepare for a new play by Robert Askins?
Subject for tonight is the squirrels. Buckle up, you discerning patrons of the arts, because squirrels are fascinating.
It's really about squirrels, and then, you know, kind of as the play goes on, there's a little kind of collision with the contemporary world that starts to occur to us, maybe.
As the play The Squirrels moved through rehearsals, director Ashley and playwright Askins discovered that sometimes the written word just didn't suffice.
And that's part of the thing that we've been navigating is like, where does a sound serve better than a word, right? Where will the physical motion tell the story?
We're finding a similar sort of idea that when our characters reach a point of high emotion, that yes, that is maybe when the squirrel movement and or sound takes over because of, again, the passion behind that.
Determining just how squirrely things need to be has been a fun process.
And when the tails came in?
Tails are fun, right?
It was a revelation.
Yeah. Apparently squirrels, the emotion is in the tail, right? Like they do this thing when they're upset, they do this thing called flagging, where the tail's like, you know, starting to get aggressive.
And when dealing with squirrels, there's no avoiding talking about their nuts.
That is the source of a lot of the tension and the conflict in the piece.
You will never get my nuts! Daddy!
I do think that there's something innately capitalist about squirrels. Right? They're hoarding their nuts. They're saving for a rainy day. It's like squirrels are like Depression era human beings, right? That sense of like, you know, we know that scarcity is coming and we've got to save up for it.
We're just saying you have more nuts than any other squirrel in these trees, and things are very bad in the branch. Not my problem. It's a problem for all of us.
How much do you distribute the nuts? Like how like inequality of distribution of the nuts turns out to be a thing that our characters deal with intensively all night long.
And there are things about squirrels, you know, that are very sort of human-like in many ways, things that they do, ways they behave.
Squirrels lie to each other constantly. And who doesn't want to live in a world of lying rodents for an hour and a half?
Squirrels seem to be a little more devious at times, a little more, manipulative.
I love the thing where like a squirrel is like burying their nuts to protect them, sees that you're watching them, pretends to bury them, hides it, and then when you're not watching, goes and hides them somewhere else.
That's right.
That's as good as it gets.
That's right. That's right. It's like mortgage-backed securities.
Askins the squirrels blurs the line between rodent and man.
That line, that separates us from certain species, is sort of dissolved in a way, or we sort of see this as sort of a universal story about any group of animals coming together and trying to live together in the world or in their environment.
It finds a way to tell a story about contemporary issues, but in a very theatrical way.
In a way that takes us all out of ourselves, so that perhaps that distance then lends observation in a different way.
La Jolla Playhouse invites you to join the squirrels and see what the world looks like from their perspective. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Wonder Spaces returns to San Diego today. The pop-up museum at the B Street Pier features 15 new works of art from around the world. KPBS video journalist Chris Arciaga takes a tour of the space with Wonder Spaces creative director Kendall Warson.
We are at the Wonder Spaces show, which is going to be opening this summer. There are 15 installations from artists all over the world that are set up to be experienced by the San Diego community. It's just as amazing as it was last summer. It's just a new venue and it's a new selection of artists, and we hope that people enjoy it just as much as they did last summer. This is Into the Breath by Stefano Aguiari Badessi. He's from Italy. It's a giant dragon balloon, so you want to walk in with a calm peace of mind and be open to the experience. And it's all made of plastic bags and tape, and the idea is to just really be in the space. It really highlights the immersive nature of the work that we're trying to feature, because people can be inside of it and they can have really a personal connection to it in a moment where they're seeing it from a different perspective. So this is Hoshi by Nanotalk Studio. It's pretty intense. It uses a lot of sensory activations to immerse a viewer in the piece. It definitely draws you into this hallway, into the back of it, and it's pretty neat that you can go through it and you kind of see yourself from these different perspectives, and it becomes like a really weirdly personal piece once you're in it for a while. This piece is called Black Balloons by the artist Tadeusz Cern. He's from Lithuania. It's just two balloons. One is filled with helium and the other is with air. And it's balancing naturally. It's just held together by a string and it stays as is. This is a piece called To Do by a group Illegal Art. These are all Post-its, and we're gonna have buckets of pens, and people go up and they write their to-do. Everyone can share their common, things that they're thinking about, and create this collective consciousness that resides in this space in the show. It's really about stepping inside the artist's imagination and allowing people to experience the work of all of these creative individuals that we've been partnering with. San Diego doesn't have the same access to MoMAs or LACMAs as cities that are larger like Los Angeles, and we want to make sure that we're filling that need within smaller cities and making sure that we're bringing the presence of art to new communities.
Wonder Spaces is open from 10 in the morning to 10 at night daily, and we've posted more information about it at kpbs.org. Well, this is a good weekend if you like art, whether it's ancient paintings or digital images. Plus, there's one last chance to catch a world premiere play. Here with more is KPBS Arts editor Nina Guerin.
Starting this weekend, San Diego will be home to one of the most comprehensive collections of South Asian paintings outside of India. Epic Tales from Ancient India, Paintings from the San Diego Museum of Art, is a unique exhibition that'll showcase ancient paintings the way they were meant to be seen, as a story that explains classic works of literature. The pieces will tell the stories of Lord Vishnu, the Hindu god Rama, and tales from Persian literature. The exhibition also features a variety of events, including daily storytelling, dance performances, and film screenings. If you're looking for something more contemporary, head to the San Diego Festival of Art, where you'll see sculpture, photography, digital art, and so much more. Once known as the La Jolla Festival of the Arts, this popular event has relocated to Waterfront Park and is still showcasing a juried collection of visual artists from around California. The event is also popular for its live music stages, food from favorite San Diego restaurants, and of course, craft beer and cocktails. And this is your last chance to catch the world premiere of The Wind and the Breeze at Signet Theater. It follows the story of a disenchanted rapper named Sam who decides to stake out a spot for the 4th of July fireworks in February. He's visited by a group of longtime friends and young musicians who want Sam to be the king of the neighborhood he once was. There's not a lot of action in this play, but it's powerful thanks to the beautiful language and standout performances by the small cast. For KPBS Arts, I'm Nina Guerin.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend.